something to be done. Thanks. So, subtle means, according to Bhagavad Gita, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Three things. Everyone has one. We don't see that because it's not physical. We know we have a mind. Somewhere in there is some intelligence. And our dear friend, false ego. Those are subtle coverings of who we really are. There's the gross covering of who we are. And then there's who we are. And then who we are is the spiritual conception. So, relationships can be on one of those three: physical, subtle, or spiritual. And here's a little, just sharing. When I was in another city in China, Xi'an. Any of you from China? No one from China. Okay. There's a city named Xi'an. Someone is. Oh. Okay. At the end of the session at a yoga studio, the first question was about what you're about to see. And I was surprised. It's the ship of Theseus. Ship of Theseus is a story, a mythical story or a historical story presented by one Greek philosopher. And the theme of it is to ask yourself the question, who are you? And a Greek philosopher asks his audience to ask himself the question, who are you? Based upon this allegory of the ship of Theseus. So during this yoga studio program, the question was, what do you think about the ship of Theseus? And what do you know about the ship of Theseus? I studied in college. So in China, they're studying a Greek allegory. Ship of Theseus. Here in Singapore, you're getting into it. It's a little that you have to check the volume, maybe move them out.
This feeling the real says poets they gauge philosophers. I think it works. Scientists, artists, theologians, and all tackling the subject of identity. Their hypotheses are widely varied and lack significant consensus. They're smart, creative people. So what's so hard about coming up with the right answer? One challenge certainly lies with the complex concept of the persistence of identity. Which you is who? The person you are today, 5 years ago, you in 50 years. And when is in this week, today, this hour, this second? And which aspect of you is I? Are you your physical body, your thoughts and feelings? And so it's probably there that that is the Greek historian. As the tale goes, Theseus, the mythical factor king, stayed in at least maybe at Crete, then returned to whenever a part of the ship was damaged, it was replaced with an identical piece of the same material until at some point no original parts were made. Plutarch noted the ship was an example of the philosophical paradigm following by identity. How can every single part of something be replaced, yet it still remains the same thing? Let's imagine The ship that Theseus adopted as ship A, and the ship failed by the Athenians 1,000 years later, ship B. Very simply, our question is this: does A equal B? Some would say that for 1,000 years there has been one ship of Theseus, and because the changes made to it happened gradually, it never at any point in time stopped being a legendary ship. Though they have absolutely no parts in common, the two ships are numerically identical, meaning one and the same. So A equals. However, others could argue that Theseus never set foot on ship B, and his presence on the ship is an essential qualitative property of the ship of Theseus. It cannot survive without it. So, though the two ships are numerically identical, they are not qualitatively identical. Thus, A does not equal B. But what happens when we consider this twist? What if, as each piece of the original ship was cast off, somebody collected them and rebuilt the entire original ship? When it was finished, undeniably, two physical ships would exist: the one that stopped in Athens and the one in Sept backyard. Each could lay claim to their title, the ship of Theseus, but only the one could actually do the thing. So which one is it? And more importantly, what does this have to do with you? Like the ship of Theseus, you are a collection of compound changing parts. But still, in an amazing, sometimes illogical way, they did one of the reasons that the question is so complex, and in order to answer, like building a great minds before them, you must build and dive into the bottom description of the philosophical era that long included that could work too.
Discard this one. You have two mics. Chocolate or vanilla? I got it. Thanks. This ship of Theseus topic is by in philosophy courses. Well, if Eastern China and America probably in Singapore too. You take a philosophy 101 course, they might take you to a guided tour, the who am I question. And this is also to understand what is a wholesome relationship. It starts with understanding who you are, that then leads to the ability, your understanding who the other person is, so you can have a wholesome relationship. Okay, negatively, if you don't know who you are, and you're trying to have a relationship with someone else and you don't know who they are, how do you expect to have a wholesome relationship? The answer is you won't. And there's disconnect between people who don't really understand themselves and don't understand the other person. And there's a natural desire to have a relationship, but it somehow ends up getting messed up or not being satisfying, etc. Say it positively. The more that you can deeply understand on a spiritual level, so align spiritual with the subtle, with the physical, and then you have a wholesome relationship where it needs on the physical, needs on the emotional, and needs on the spiritual platform or net. That's a wholesome relationship. It's like the topic for this morning is what's the relationship? What's a wholesome relationship? There. So here's Bhagavad Gita. Here's a verse from Bhagavad Gita. those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there's no endurance. No, bodies certainly exist. But like the ship of Theseus, they don't endure. They're ever changing. Every second, cells in the body are being eliminated, other cells are replacing them like the ship of Theseus. So it's an ever-changing you. So those things that are ever changing, it's like a cloud in the sky. So if the cloud can, I don't know if you did this when you were a kid, but we did it, I did. There's a cloud that looks like a pushy cat, and then it's wait a while, it looks like a dragon, and wait a while, it's gone. But it's the same water vapor, it's just undergoing some changes. That's what it is, it's water vapor in the sky. It looks like this, and then there's some emotion, looks like a dragon, then another emotion. But it's not what the thing really is, just look like something. And then some feelings that look like them. On the physical and also on the emotional or mental. So it's essential, it's not optional. To understand the temporary doesn't really have sat or substance. That's a nice sense for sat. Sat means eternal or substance. What that which is eternal and has substance, that which is not eternal doesn't have substance. For sometimes this, and then sometimes that, but there's no substance, sat. Then you see sat in the first one, not sato, vijay bhavo, nabhavo vijay, sataha, sat, having existence, really existence. And the eternal, the soul, there's no change. But that's the ship of Theseus example. Or we all have the experience that although the body is changing, one time was a little kid, and then that changed, I was youngster, then a teenager, and then something. There's a continuing sense of I am, although the coverings are always changing, the emotions are always, the gross and subtle are always changing, but there's something that's unchanging. That's a sense of I exist. So what's that I? That's the ship of Theseus question. What's that I that's unchanging? Who is that? What is it? So Bhagavad Gita is encouraging us to pursue that. Body keeps changing, but the self is unchanging. So this is a nice drawing. This little spark is the self and it changes. This is from the embryo in the womb, there's a soul present, according to Bhagavad Gita. And the body develops around the vibrant life, soul, and changes, and then way over here, the soul gives up the body, leaves, goes into the womb of the next mother, and develops another body according to the principles of guna and karma. So those who don't know Bhagavad Gita, guna means modes of nature, and karma, you all know what that means. Action, reaction. According to your actions, there's an equal and opposite reaction, that's karma. Action and reaction, the word karma is called. And guna, so a little bit, it comes into this topic, so just to touch on it. There's more verses on this topic of guna than any other topic in Bhagavad Gita, so it's an important topic. Guna being modes of nature. Modes of nature. Just like primary colors. How many primary colors are there? 3. Yellow, red, and blue mixed make any color in the spectrum. 3 primary colors. Similarly, 3 modes of nature mixed makes all variety. Variety amongst humans and varieties amongst all of the other species, but simply a mixture of these 3 modes plus karma. That's material nature of the coverings, both subtle and gross. And then there's something that's unchanging. That's what the topic of a relationship is, a wholesome relationship. Just understand myself and understand the other person. Recognize their body type has a certain nature. They have a certain need, both physical and emotional. Recognizing those differences, there's a sameness also. That's a wholesome relationship. And they accordingly, the coverings as well as the really is. I haven't seen anybody puzzled so far. We'll keep going. Here's a nice graphic I like. This is an iceberg. And the bottom of the iceberg, part that you don't see, is the real I, or on the left margin, the substance. Largely what we see is the tip of the iceberg that's above the surface of the water, called form. And then the bottom is the substance. You can hear that term again. Disturbed relationships place form above substance. Disturbed relationships place form above substance without acknowledging the substance of another person. I'm much more concerned about the form. Their speech, their mannerisms, their culture, their color, their personality type, and all of that is exhibited through form. And then there's who the person really is. Because the form is always changing. Coverings always changing. There's a spiritual aspect of a relationship is between the real I. So there's the real I. And up here, mind, intelligence, and body. That's the form part. When there's too much focus on the form over substance, there's potential at least. Potentially better if it happens. There's conflict. It doesn't have to be shouting at, but it can be tension in any relationship. It doesn't have to be a man or woman, it can be any relationship. One group of people, another group of people. One nation, another nation, or one interest group, another interest group, and they clash. Form over substance. So here's a toxic relationship wheel. At the center is our big friend, power and control. And there's ways of exhibiting power and control. Economic control, coercion and threats, intimidation, verbal attack, isolation. So this is people that study, this is, the sociology chart borrowed from them. And you have guaranteed toxic relationship with power and control is at the center. And those who don't know who they are and don't know who the other person is, this is the kind of behavior that comes to the form that comes from such a person, or a toxic relationship wheel. Toxic relationships lead to bad stuff, anxiety, depression, loneliness, divorce, suicide. So here's a nice phrase. People were created to be loved, things were created to be used, raising the world from chaos, things should be loved, and people are being used. Then there's when toxicity is removed, what's left? There's at least a balance. And when there's a balance, there's a real connection. This is the topic is what's a relationship? The toxicity isn't what a relationship is. It's the distortion of what it really is. Why does the relationship between a mother and child seem like the first form of love? It's really easy. I mean, there's lots of different answers, correct answers. But who would like to volunteer? Why is it that we often think of the love between a mother and child as being the purest form of love?
No expectations.
No
No expectations.
No expectation. Selfless service. Same. It's just a different way of saying the same thing. Yeah. So a wholesome relationship is there isn't expectation. It's just selfless service. That's pretty rare because most people when they're in a relationship, they have some expectations. Give examples, but it's easy to understand. You have something? You want to add? You're raising your hand now. So here's a good one. This is the, again, sociology chart. You take a course in college in sociology course, you'll learn this. Equality. Now, equality doesn't mean net zero, but respect, and based upon respect of the other person, knowing who you are, knowing who they are, there's respect, and therefore equality where economic partnership, shared responsibility, responsible parenting, that for married person with children, etc. We put respect over there on the right side. And constitutionally, we seek holistic relationships, but sometimes too often we find dissension. Now, this drawing is meant to show something that's modern in psychology. It's called, maybe you've heard it, the child within. And the child within him and within her, they want to be, in a relationship, an affectionate, loving relationship. That's the innate tendency of everybody. They want to love and be loved. That's universal. Love and be loved. So that's intrinsic. But somehow the form gets in the way and then becomes essential. Okay, so are you ready for this? This is your way. Yeah. No.
Yes. So we are going to do a quick exercise. So all of you have many relationships, like you have parents, you have children, you have friends, you have other family, you have colleagues, you have people you meet in the MRT maybe. So there are various relationships. So as an exercise, I'll give you 2 to 3 minutes. And on your own time, when you're at home, do this in more detail. It would be really helpful for you. With you in the center of your life, for 3 of these circles at least, in decreasing order of intimacy, identify the relationships. For example, the one nearest to the U circle will be the most intimate relationships you have. Okay? The one after will be slightly less intimate, and the one after will be even less intimate. So at least for 2 or 3 circles, you write that down or you mentally make a note of those. So that's the first part of this exercise. Once you're done with that in 2 to 3 minutes, we will take it to the next level. So please go ahead.
You just see this chart again. I was told that you get printed copy. But hopefully you get a printed copy because there's going to be an action time for you to show in the unwholesome and the wholesome. Or holistic and toxic. But let's see. Okay. There's another monk besides me. He did a little video series. And if the sound system works right, he's going to speak about what? This right now, I don't know what up in the chart. Whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. Look at that. I'm grateful. So there's going to be, in this morning session, there'll be 3 little videos of it. The person speaking, he speaks in English, and he's from Hungary, and his residence is at a farm where they're off the grid, no electricity, no running water, no, there's no heat. It's winter, but they just use wood instead of electricity and gas and all that stuff. So they're really into a natural way, simple, natural way of living. He's the monk that kind of like holds that spiritual community together. And he's very concerned, so he's going to speak about relationships. Avoid lethargy, communicate better, and avoid false expectations. Those are 3 little video clips that you'll see shortly. Let's start with the first one.
Essentially, I mean, people's misunderstanding of relationship, stay married, has some inherent quality that makes it successful. In other words, once you have a big wedding, a big Greek wedding, the marriage will ensure that everything goes smoothly. That, I call it basic. Participants have to make the marriage good. That time, patience, energy, and dedication to the institution of marriage. But with any relationship, like a friendship, you have to make a friendship. No one wants you. To work on a relationship, you have to be constantly working yourself, going within to understand your psychophysical nature, and even deeper to understand your spiritual. So do away with lethargy. Relationships don't make themselves work. It's part of the constant effort that does.
Very simple message. And it's a nice community. Sometimes if you happen to be passing through Hungary, pay a visit, and you'll find very wholesome, it's not like perfect, but a very wholesome community with principles of living with nature and also living amongst themselves. So that's this little video clip, examples of lethargy. He mentioned taking relationships for granted. This phrase of running on autopilot. Autopilot, you know what that is. You don't have to put your hand on the steering wheel and just go on autopilot. Is this going to work well because I'm good and the other person's good, and so I don't have to invest in it. The relationship is just going to run on autopilot. That's how also relationship, there's investment of thought, sensitivity to the other person, their needs. Another one is communicating what your needs are in a wholesome way, etc., etc. So it takes some energy. Lethargy, another example, is being inattentive when, you know, when you're with somebody, you're looking out the window and doing 3 things while you're having an important conversation with other people. Lethargy. Here's a little cartoon. Here's a person who's going to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist is looking at this fourth page of the newspaper. And the person sitting in the couch next to him says, sometimes it feels like I'm just running on autopilot. And they say, the safe after is what you're supposed to say. Oh, really? How do you feel about that? And they're not interested at all. They're checked out. That's autopilot. Okay, we're ready for another session. There's like 4 of these, so.
So the relationship circles, I'll now give you 2 minutes to write down your most intimate circle of relationships, and the one after and the one after.
This one.
It can be names of persons. Ideally, it would be specific. But that takes you more time, you can be more gentle. This is a personal exercise. You don't have to share with anyone. give you 30 more seconds. We can do this in more detail later on, but for now, at least one circle of intimacy or two. So now you have this circle of intimacy with you at the center done. Now think about, look at that chart if you have it, if you did it mentally, you can close your eyes and look at it. So which are the relationships which are less than ideal, which are stressed in some way or the other? Think about, are there relationships there which are stressed, which are not ideal? Think about that. So once you have identified the stressed relationships, the ones which you would like to improve, now contemplate whether the stress or the less than ideal nature of the relationship is because of placing form over substance. Remember the iceberg that Maharaj mentioned earlier. Form is what's above the water, what you can see immediately, the body, the mind, and the intellect. Then there is the whole thing below the water, the iceberg, which is substance. So it is the stress in the relationship because placing form over substance. So contemplate throughout the day and on your own time about that. We will come back to that chart, but I will end this exercise today with asking you a question. We saw Maharaj mention, we also saw in the video, the monk mentioned about inner work. So the question where I would like some answers from all of you is, what is inner work that you can do to improve the stress in relationship because of this form over substance? Anyone wants to share? What is inner work?
I won't give you a comprehensive answer, but I think inner work is firstly coming from self-awareness. Because usually the thing that we dislike in others is what we reject in ourselves. And so it's about looking deep within. And I think establishing a healthier relationship with yourself on the inside, which can lead you to self-love. And once you reach there, it's easier, life is easier, everything flows easier, and all your relationships.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? What is inner work for you? One more person, please. Would like to share.
Just to firstly understand that we have our own imperfection and we are not perfect. So there are a lot of errors or mistakes within us. So seeing that, expecting others to be all good is not good.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. We'll come back to the exercise after.
Just two things before we go on. The topic of relationships was selected because it's a general feedback from people. That's important to them. So what we're doing right now is providing some thoughtfulness rather than lethargy in relationships that can improve, and what are some of the things that can be done to help improve from the inside out. The second is the part two of this, I guess it's tomorrow, is going to be how meditation can help. And then the final is how also relationships can help in meditation. That's where the train's going, but get on board. Oh, there it is. What is in your work? Okay, it was avoid lethargy, and now is strengthen communication, so don't be lazy. Autopilot, and what's the communication element in a wholesome relationship?
This is the age of quarrel. And while argument is taking the form of communication, it isn't. It's the sign of a deteriorating relationship going bad. In my experience, people in general are poor at communicating. Either people don't know the art, don't bother to learn, or they don't have the courage to communicate. They freeze up. But communication is a science. It means knowing how to speak and how to hear. Speaking and hearing needs to be proactive, open, constructive, and bad. It's not an occasional affair, but an integral part of the relationship. Parents need to regularly sit with your offspring and openly inquire and share. And in being emphatic, you need to say, okay, I hear you're saying such and such, and then respond. Communication is a real mark of quality relationship.
The detail is there's a farm community in mid-Pennsylvania, it's one of the eastern states in the US. We regularly have retreats at that farm community. And one of the elements during that weekend together is empathic communication. And there's a whole science, some of you may know it to some degree already. There was a gentleman who's now deceased who gave for 30 plus years, was dedicated to non-violent communication. He wrote a book, he taught seminars, he had a whole school, it's still going on. And there are some members of the spiritual organization that I'm part of that have adopted it because it's part of Bhagavad Gita. Those of you that don't know Bhagavad Gita, maybe you'll become familiar over time. But chapter 17, text 15, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, speech, this is the communication part, speech that is not harmful to other people, but is pleasing and uplifting to consciousness, that is room for improvement and communicated in a way that's effective and with the mode of goodness. That's the proper kind of communication. Communication in the mode of goodness. So empathic, he's using this word. Empathic communication is that. It's right from Bhagavad Gita, and it arises from when someone who is on a spiritualizing path in their life. Part 2 of this presentation on meditation will help that in your healthy relationship. It is important. or say, yeah, negative. When people don't put attention in the quality of their communications and their relationships, they're unhappy people. And you probably know if you're unhappy people, I do. And something that can help is strengthening relationships through mode of goodness, elevating kinds of communication. Not arguing that you win, they lose, but trying to understand the other individual, their needs, and you communicate your needs, even if they're not being met, etc. It's a nice topic. Marshall Rosenberg, some of you may have heard, nonviolent communication. The whole school. Okay, so that's communication. Oh, there's the book. Marshall Rosenberg, there's the author of the book. Empathy, collaboration, authenticity, growth recommendation. There's another one that was written by a member of the spiritual organization that I'm part of, and it's called Empathic Communication. He called it nonviolent, and this modern version is empathic communication. And so one of the first our retreats teaches a seminar on that topic. Maybe you can conduct a seminar with all of you if there's some interest. He likes. In fact, she's enrolling in that school. She's a certified person to help people in how to have proper communications. And that's the second one, then here's the third one of three. Expectations. I was thinking for someone who could say, you know, what is inner work mean? You kind of touched on it. If I have an expectation of you, or you have an expectation of me, and you don't meet my expectation, or I don't meet your expectation, that there's frustration in the relationship. And too often we project, I have a need, I want you to fulfill that need. We have a relationship. If you fulfill that need, we have a relationship. If something starts to move, there's a strain in relationship that they break. That's not a real relationship. It's back to this little mother and her daughter, or child, no expectation. Loving service, the child makes noise and goes, makes messages with mothers, love it, because they love the child, because there's no expectation. But expectation can spoil relationship. Inner work is don't project your expectation of what I expect from you. Happiness for me is this, and I expect it of you. Whether it's spoken or unspoken, I have an expectation. It can spoil a relationship.
Or our culture. We're not perfect, but often we have idealized expectations from others or a relationship. My own personal experience, I saw my father be an example of someone who accepted people for what they were. He nudged me along to improve and grow, but at the same time, he accepted me for what I was and didn't try to make me a person out. So we can help each other grow and our relationship grow. But don't try to change the person. Help him or her become more himself or herself. There are many books available today on the topics I mentioned, making relationships work. Unfortunately, few look self-aware as an essential purpose or goal of the marriage. But if you don't know who you are, then even if relationships work, you don't bear much to self-awareness. So then what do we give each other? A lasting value, favorable relationships, help keep our minds self-aware. So healthy spiritual life, self-community, good love, and love.
Nice. Expectation. So let's see. There's an expectation that he gives her some flowers and she expects after we're together, there's reality. He's washing the dishes, not giving the flowers. and she has to care for IT. So false expectations is they do the things the way you do. And if they know they should, that's a false expectation. Good relationships don't have any conflicts. That's a false expectation. My relationship should look like everyone else's. Another false expectation. Good relations should not be work. That was already covered. That was don't get into the lethargy zone. So here we are in this, the center is different. Before the center was true. Now it's service to another.
So go back to your chart. The center is you. But now let's change the center. The center is now service to others. So when you put service to others in the center, what is your first step? Who do you serve? This is a paradigm shift in our awareness, our consciousness, how we see relationships. The reason we do the U exercise and the service circles is typically by default, that's how we see our life. We at the center, I at the center, then our relationships around us. But if we can change that, the service at the center, does that get us away from the lethargy, the putting the form over substance? We'll give you a minute to contemplate, and if there is any sharing, we yes. Can you pass? Yes.
I'm so sorry, I'm able to write on this model.
Say that again.
Sorry, but I'm not really sure what to write for this. With the sensor being service.
So in the first, you acted by intimacy with you in the center. In the second is service to the center. So the center has changed to not so much you and what you need or what you want. Now it's what you do for others.
Oh, so this for other.
Service unto others.
Oh, yes. You. I have a question actually. It's not related to this, but I would like to. Is it okay if I ask a question?
Should we wait for?
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. Actually, when it comes to expectations,
That's what you need.
When we talk about expectations, like as I said, that we should not be keeping expectations from people, and we do work on it. But we do have certain relationships in our life,
Yeah.
where the other person doesn't get down to the expectations. They have a certain level of expectations, and they do not work on it. So in that scenario, wherein only one person is putting in the effort, there's no effort coming in from the other person. So how do we overcome that situation? Because that also is somehow unavoidable in our life. Somehow it may be beneficial or in-law or something. So how do we overcome it?
The answer I like is it depends. There's not a cookie cutter answer to this question. One recommendation, like a fundamental recommendation is go to that iceberg example, and then there's the form, what the body is doing or not doing, what the mind is doing, not doing, what the intellect is doing, not doing. And you could assess what the form is, but don't forget, the big part of that other person is the substance. When you get too, when one becomes you or me or any of us become too much absorbed in form, it just obliterates the substance. So the person with whom I'm having, this experience, that they're not investing, as far as I can perceive, in trying to recognize their need for improvement, even when I, on my side, am trying my utmost to communicate appreciation, room for improvement, appreciation, and there's no acknowledgement, there's no movement. Go back to the substance part. No, it ends. If we may be doing that for 5 years, for 10 years, or something. Whatever the relationship, mother-daughter relationship, or friend and friend, or husband, wife, whatever it is, whatever it is. There's different things, at that point, there's different things you can do. Just be patient, or ask them. It happens. Sometimes someone is desisting in doing something because their mind is troubled over something else they can't even pay attention to, working on the room for improvement part. They check out because they're dealing with something that's very stressful, or something physical, something emotional, something interpersonal in their life, and they may not be sharing it with you, or they may not even be aware of it, what's going on. So there may be many reasons why. And then you have to make some decisions. Maybe you have to be product on this relationship.
Pause in the relationship and
Maybe that's an option. It's not like you don't.
so we walk away.
No, they can pause. Doesn't say walk away. Pause. Maybe they need some time. They may need to process something that's disturbing and troubling them. So let me give them that space.
Basically, just be patient with them.
Yeah, so then comes this thing, this center, this service. What's my best service to this other person? If that's the foremost part of your question, and thinking with substance, and the form is there's room for improvement. But then what about me? Maybe I'm doing something that's triggering them. Maybe something else is triggering them. I don't know. So I ask, or I introspect, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes to just give the whole thing some time. As I'm speaking to you, I'm thinking about this person I know. They kind of checked out. Good person. They checked out. So then I had some choices to make, and I gave them some space. And through the passage of time, I knocked on the door, or sent them a birthday message, or sent them a nice picture of something I knew would be meaningful to them, without any expectation. And so what was received on the other end is, although that person checked out, I checked out on them, or life, or something, they still care. And they still care. So it was little drops, not too much, little drops saying, I care. And slowly, those relationships started to blossom again. They just needed space. And I needed to not have an expectation of them that it's going to be other than what it is, because it is what it is. With acceptance and giving space. It's my well-wishing continue. And they remain silent. That's okay. They needed to be silent for a while. To go process whatever the process. So the short answer is depends. Then you start looking, if you go from the position of service, what what's the best thing I can do to help with being service to this other person, given what I see? Knowing what I see may not be the way that it really is, or the full picture of what it really is. I'm listening for you. So I may not have full information, or even a distorted understanding of what's going on. That's introspection part of it. And then patience.
Thank you.
Continue to be sun shining and some little rainfall. Just keep. That which will nurture a wholesome relationship between you and that other person. And that person, their other relationship with other person.
There is a relationship in my life which have been there for very long. We have given each other space, but nothing has worked out necessarily because that person is not willing to change it.
Appreciate whatever was there in the past, and because there's something genuine and wholesome and, lovable. That's the bottom of the iceberg. The subtle iceberg. The form has changed. What forms don't change? You appreciate that, and you just continue to. He wants to take the microphone away from you. Just set the ring there. Okay. So let's move on. Group discussion. You look at this. Let's move on. You ready for the next one? He's good.
So, just for a second, we'll go back to the service to others in the center. Is there any comments or questions you have in that paradigm shift of how we see relationships from you to service to others in the center? Or we would like to invite sharing on what does it mean to you when we say growing together? What does it mean? How do we grow together in the relationship? What does it mean to grow together? Anybody wants to share?
That's a question on the expectation. Just a question on that service piece in the middle. Do we have to consciously understand who should actually go in that service piece on that first circle? Because if we put people in there that we want to serve with our hearts and our love and our kindness, but they may not want to be there, or it makes a big impact to our life if we've got in that intimate circle people we want to serve, but they may not need to be there. Is my question.
My answer to this question is the same in my answer. It depends. Different circumstances are going to be different. And service at the center is service. The service is without expectation. That's a big one, because this is the material world. We do something to get something, including relationships. We do something to get something. And if that's something, you knock on the door, they don't even say, nobody home. Just don't answer the door. For whatever the reason, there can be n number of different reasons why they don't answer the door. So now you get the fallback position, the core position of service. Maybe they should need space, or maybe they need some music or some dance or some laughter, or maybe whatever I don't know what their needs are. But there's some need that's unfulfilled, and that's why there's no answer. So let me remotely remain a well-wisher, wanting to win. It works. My experience is it will hold years and years and years and years to make tests. But if you continue to be that person unto them, who cares about them, that's not be who they are when through that stretch of time when they were checked out and didn't want anything, just leave you alone. So you know, you don't exactly move on from the relationship, but you don't invest as you would like to invest in the relationship, except remotely. You wish them well, you pray for them, you have good thoughts to them. Again, from time to time, you say a little no. Thinking of you. 3 words. I hope all is well. Or any service I can do for you. It's just, you don't have to they don't have to respond. Just let them know. You're there for them. And then, you know, in time, that's little drops of water, it softens the heart. That's my experience. And it has to be from a genuine place, not just, you know, cute with cosmetic or something. And even if for the rest of your life and their life, there's silence. You've done the right thing. The service position that you've taken is wholesome. When in fact it's wholesome and there is a connecting issue. That's from your side what you can do. And then to do what other things it depends. It get brainstorming with it. You may know somebody that knows them. And you can say something to the person that knows them. There's silence, there's a wall, there's something, I don't know exactly what it is. If you feel it's appropriate, the least you can know that I care about this person, and if it's appropriate at some point in some time, circumstance, you let them know. I just want to be the well-wisher of that person. If it's not appropriate, don't deploy it. You know, not manipulative, getting something from that person, just letting the person know. You're ready to render some service, whatever. And if they extend, well, here's some service I want, and it's not something that's really realistic for you. For whatever reason, you don't have to say yes because they ask. But it has to do with this empathic communication topic. So now we're ready for something else. You want to do something else?
Some participants have raised their hand for this growing together or the kids part.
There's a hand back here.
Yeah, so further from what we're going together means, I think spirituality is a big aspect of life, and I think that spiritual enlightenment is a natural goal and tendency for a lot of people. It's a natural goal and tendency of life, and in what I think is that growing together is progressing along this journey together. It doesn't have to be starting at being at the same place, but just progressing along the Thank you.
Just taking forward what Guruji just said, right? Like when I work on myself and I do step A and B. And in the process, I soften up, my approach changes. The person I interact with at some point of time will also soften up, his reaction will change. And so we might grow differently at different levels, but eventually we are converging towards the same goal. And that is going to be.
Since you mentioned that, if you don't mind, I'll share one personal joke that happened. So during the pandemic, my wife got pregnant, and you know, Singapore was in lockdown, so it was just the 2 of us. And the baby grew and grew and grew. We were in the 8th month, and in the 8th month, she had a lot of water, so she was very big, a very big watermelon at her belly. And she couldn't lie down properly, this side, that side. Those who have been mothers would know this. And one particular night, she was very uncomfortable and she was getting very scared, how the delivery will go. And you hear scary stories, sometimes you see videos and scary. So I thought I would crack a joke. And I said, and during this time, I had also gained quite a bit of weight because we were staying together at home, no workout, no not much activity. And I said, I think we were misunderstood growing together. He thought it was very funny. He laughed at it.
That's 5 slides to go and find this out. He's good. Now, this is our topic tomorrow, like how can meditation help? Meditating helps control the mind, increases emotional stability, can help you become more self-aware. Ultimately, meditation is about connecting back with the infinite. Different kinds of meditation. Some of you may do, some of you are have done some of these different kinds of meditation. This is an image meant to show Buddhist meditation. They spend practically a whole day using powders, making a mandala, a geometric pattern, and they, 6, 7 monks lean over the same space, and very intricately made with powder. This, and then they lean over the mandala and do the meditation, focusing their mind on the mandala they just made. That's a type of meditation, one type of meditation. Meditating on the syllable Om or by the sound of the syllable Om. Meditating on a candle, different types of meditation. That's Chinese. Thank you so much. Okay, that's it. That was quick. Okay. Somehow in Chinese. I think this is a carry over from, any general discussion topics you'd like to bring up? Yes, behind you. Go ahead, Chief. Whoever's got the mic, go ahead.
So, when we were talking about service to others, I started making my circles and thinking who needed to be in the closest circle. And eventually, 2 minutes into the exercise, I realized that I don't need that many circles. So it's just me within the innermost circle, and then it's just everyone else outside of it. Does that make sense?
No. I mean, relationship means there's other people in the circle. So service is you, and then relationship is you.
Can you all?
Can we do something with this sound? Whoever's the controller of the sound.
Can you all?
The feedback is coming.
Is this the problem? So what's the problem?
You just want my other time doesn't.
If I understood your question correctly, I may have misunderstood your question. But we're at the center of that, so if who I am, if the spirit of conception is, by nature I'm a servant, ultimately the servant of the Supreme. And then there's different manifestations of the Supreme, including souls and nature. Two souls and nature. I'm a servant. I'm built intrinsically for service. And then there's the objects of service. There's 3 things. Me, the servant, the object of service, and the relationship. So relationships are defined by that service. So I interact with not just amorphous something or someone, but a person or nature. And I'm dedicated to that position of service because that's who I am, the servant, who I am. All the hate of the Supreme. So that's a wholesome relationship. Now, I don't just look at myself, I look at the object of service and the relationship of service itself unto the person who I'm serving or the aspect of nature that I'm serving. That address your question?
Yeah, so then wouldn't it include everyone else? Wouldn't it include everyone else? Like depending on that. So a guru disciple relationship, my service to you, whatever your requirements are, I will provide.
And conversely. The person who's serving becomes the object of affection, the child becomes the object of affection for the mother, and the mother becomes the everything for the child. It's a relationship.
So do you need that many
Yeah.
service?
Yeah, it's natural. Service includes all those things. Someone else.
Not sure if I can articulate this clearly. So when we talk about service, we give service with an intention. So at a subconscious level, we always have a goal. And how do we balance that goal with not having expectations? It's all
Great
out
question.
of love. The greater, the more you love, the more you want them to be healthy, to do well, and you perform a lot of services completely selflessly. But then you hold on to that intention, that certain impact you want to create. But then at the same time, you say not having any expectation.
I got it. You've been sitting there quietly all this time, and when you raised your hand, I was expecting some explosion, sure enough. From people who are thoughtful like you, jewels come, so thank you.
Well, thank you for understanding my question, because I was thinking with how to articulate.
Well, I got the question.
Thank
You said it twice, I got it the first time.
Thank you.
Bhagavad Gita gives, one way of looking at responding to your question.
Hmm.
It is called detachment. Knowledge, detachment doesn't mean stop caring or stop having a goal. Doesn't mean either of those. Doesn't mean stop, anesthetize you. You have a service, and service has a goal. Service has a goal in a relationship and being a meaningful purpose to the object being served. So it doesn't mean to anesthetize it. So what do? The detachment part. But that is, it's not in my hands. And the Supreme, who everything is in the hands of the Supreme, is acknowledging the other person, not just you, but the other person and their guna and karma, their modes of nature. So supposing, for example, somebody has a problem, an emotional problem, an anger problem, or a depression problem, or something, addiction problem, or some problem, supposing.
How do you know?
Yes, so there's something going on in there, that other person. I wish well for them. I don't have to stop wishing well for them. But there's a relationship between that person and the Supreme, and they've developed a certain tendency. There's a Sanskrit word called vasana, like a tendency, long-standing, lifelong, many lifetimes, sometimes tendency for something or other. And they have to honor that. Their tendency and their relationship with the Supreme. And there comes the detachment. It's not only about you and the other person. There's the other person and the Supreme and their relationship with one another. And so, like this thing, I don't want to change people because that's foolish. It's not a good idea. So having a desire where my expectation is that this other person becomes a better person. They become a happier person. They become a something. I wish that for them. And my service is aligned for that. So don't stop that. That's the service position. That's who you are. But then there's the detachment. Because it's not just me. Not up to me. I'm not a service machine that can fix things and fix people and make the world a better place. They're ultimately it's the Supreme. So I can be an instrument of the Supreme. And according to my effectiveness as an instrument, it's going to impact another person more or less. And if it's less than more, there's detachment. The work that I need to do, the introspection part, is I need to become more pure or a better instrument. That's where you do with that. You don't stop. You just don't project the expectation on the other person. Look, other person. You're supposed to become like this. So you still become a well-wisher. You still maintain being a well-wisher. That's an expectation. That's the service expectation. But the outcome is the detachment part. It's not in my hand, it's on your hand.
Yeah.
That the detachment. So there's some other factors, and I acknowledge the other factors. Ultimately, is the consent of the Supreme. So let me align with the will of the Supreme. And then my will, in relation to the Supreme, be in accord with the wisdom literature. It tells me what's a wholesome desire in my part, or another person, or for myself, or for the world, or for nature, or for whatever the object is. So this expectation, one more time, it's service. And the expectation is I want to stay in the mood of being a servant of this other person or whatever is the object. That's an expectation of me, not the outcome. And the outcome is dependent upon my purity and the consent of the Supreme. And then the detachment part.
Right.
Got it?
Got it. So I think the real work, right, the constant work, which is the growing,
Yeah,
is that constant learning of
you got it.
not having control
You
of
got
the outcome, but continue to serve.
Yes. That's the
and make
detachment
peace.
part.
Yeah.
There's, it's not just you and the other object of your service. And there's nothing else to factor in. I'm less than perfect, they're less than perfect, and there's a Supreme. And there's the acceptance, and the turning to that's yoga, that's linking with the Supreme. That's what yoga means. So don't forget, don't delete or pause out on that factor. Then you're a yogi.
That takes a lot of
Oh yeah,
many layers
welcome,
practice.
welcome. You're invited to the club, the Many Layers Club.
Many layers.
It's a
Many
good,
layers.
it's a good club. And then once you get one thing together, you're connected to that thing, and you pay attention to that thing, and then this thing starts to getting in disarray again. So it's a lifetime. It's called abhyasa. Practice. Practices by right means. Right means, what does that mean by right means? In alignment with the wisdom literature, that which is from the Supreme, that knows what's best. Because you and I and the other persons who are in the room here don't know what's best. We have an idea. We all have an idea, but we don't know what's best. We're doing our best because we're trying our best.
Sometimes we don't.
Align with the Supreme. That's yoga. To become a yogi. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6. Krishna says, Arjuna, by all means be a yogi. And then he says, of all the different rungs of the ladder of the yoga system, There's one that's the Uttama, topmost. Would you like to know what that is? I'll tell you quickly. It's two things, what the mind does and what the body does. So what the mind does, mind fixed upon the supreme. What the body does is activities in connection with the supreme. So service unto a person or unto nature or unto a cause or a value that I hold very dear to me, connected with the supreme. What the mind does and what the body does. It's called bhakti. And then the next 6 chapters for your interest. That's the last verse of chapter 6. The next 6 chapters is a how-to section. How do you do that? You had a question. Someone, you had your hand up before. Yes. No? Did you forget? You remember?
Thank you.
Yeah. It's the lifetime's work. Layers. Go ahead.
With respect to the service question, with respect to the service question. So I was just thinking, is that to be to others and or like the first thing that came to my mind honestly is also to ourselves,
Yeah.
you,
Oh, yeah.
because
There's the monk speaks. On this little video. It's not just about others. It's work on yourself.
yeah,
It's our need.
so that like, that for me, like carry the first string to serve you in the right ways, like now when you spoke about that, because it shouldn't be like a selfish process to say.
I think I've understood your question. Not sure I've understood your question. It's not just thinking about others, it's also improving the quality or the effectiveness or the purity or being the instrument of a higher purpose, a higher will, it's a supreme mission in life. And then the relationship. That's what you're saying, yes? Yes. I think we should end because of time. It's been a great discussion, but I also like to keep schedules. Something about schedules.
So today at 3 o'clock, half of you at least would have an opportunity to ask further questions to our amazing speaker. But for this session, basic gratitude is the seed of love. And let's express our gratitude for this time and this sharing of the wisdom with a very warm round of applause. We'll do a little bio break and we'll come back and do some mantra meditation. This is one of the teachings of this body, mind, spirit, followed by a very fun, interactive 2 truths analyzing, and we'll then have lunch. All right, bio break, there are bathrooms.